All right, what's up, Turtle Riders? Welcome to Uncle Turtle Boy's Late Night Garage Podcast. Or no, we need a new name for this, don't we? But we got to come up for a name with this show. This is our new morning show that I'm going to start doing every Monday and Wednesday for the morning peeps. I know a lot of people might be sleeping at 9:30 at night. The only reason that we're able to do this right now, though, is thanks to our good friends over at Andrew Porter Contracting in Charlton. Let me tell you about them for a moment, all right? If you guys are in the need for a roof is the most important part about your house, guys, all right? It's literally like the most important thing that you speak to a, what do you call those guys? Home inspector about, right? That's like the first thing they tell you. If your house needs a new roof, it's down in value like $15,000, $20,000, all right? You want a good roof, a roof that lasts a long time, all right? Through thick and thin, it's literally what protects you from the elements. Right? And I'm not saying go out and buy a roof tomorrow because obviously you're not going to do that. All I'm asking is that when the inevitable comes and you need a new roof, you might as well go with the people that advertise on Turtle Boy Sports and support us. All right. It also helps that Andrew Porter Contracting in Charlton has a 5-star rating on Google, Angelus, and Home Advisor. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They're Owens Corning preferred vendor. And all they want from you guys, right, is to just like them on Facebook. That's it. That's like they're trying to build up their Facebook following. And they're kind of trying to become like a household name. You know, I wouldn't advertise them. I wouldn't sponsor them. I wouldn't put them out there if I didn't think they were good people and good shits. All right. So just by liking their Facebook page, you are automatically entered in to winning an Echo 250-mile-an-hour leaf blower, which comes in handy this time of year, a Milwaukee drill kit, or a golf bag if you're into that sort of thing. And literally, no person necessarily just like their page. That's it. They're just trying to build up followers on their page. So let's show them some love. There's a link on this live stream to their Facebook page. Hit them up there. Winners announced on Black Friday. All right. So with that said, let's get this show started, shall we? So one thing I want to talk about today, guys, is cancel culture. So this has been a hot topic in general ever since last week. Former President Obama, he was on, I don't know if it was a podcast or a speaking appearance or something, but he came out and scolded leftists for woke culture, right? And it's like, oh, cool, you're woke, basically. What else have you done? Like, how are you helping the world? You're woke. Congratulations, you got somebody canceled. He basically shit all over cancel culture. And cancel culture is a thing now. Cancel culture is, it couldn't happen without social media. Social media has definitely accelerated it. But basically how I would define cancel culture, and I'm curious how you would define it too, is that it's when a mob organizes on the internet to silence somebody because they disagree with them. That's like the best way. Just get them banned. Try to dig up, in bad faith, something they previously said or did and use that to cost them their job or silence them. That's basically what cancel culture is in a nutshell. I'm not sure if there's a legal or technical definition to it, right? But it's a hot topic. Now, not everyone agrees cancel culture is a real thing, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a few weeks ago retweeted this from some woke blue check mark, and this is a commonly held opinion amongst their types. It says, yes, cancel culture, formerly known as consequences. This is what they think. Like, basically, because of the ridiculous things that you've said, you are, if you say these absurd things, you deserve to lose your job. Like, these are consequences, right? And the whole premise of my book, guys, was that if there are consequences for free speech, then you're not really free, are you? Right? You can say what you want. you're just going to die of hunger. Like, that's ultimately what it comes down to. And if you have to choose between feeding your family and stating your opinions on controversial subjects and matters, then you're not free, period. And this is something that the AOC generation ascribes to. The Obama generation of the left does not. And that's an important distinction, all right? I wasn't the biggest fan of President Obama, particularly when it came to his rhetoric with the police and racial issues and stuff like that. But he's 100% right about this. And he's been right about it before, right? I want to say it was around when Hillary was running in 2015 or 2016. He spoke to a crowd in Iowa, at a college in Iowa, and he said something to the effect of that, all this activism and all this stuff, it's like, it's nice and all, but you actually have to do something, right? That you're not fixing any problems with hashtags and whatnot. And he's absolutely right? You can hate on Obama all you want. Obama, I voted for him in 2008 in the primary against Hillary Clinton because he was a million times better than Hillary Clinton. He's a better person than Hillary Clinton. He's a better speaker. He's a better leader. And he doesn't always give in to this nonsense bullshit. He's an actual leader in that party. He is the rare adult in the room that they're kind of lacking right now. They have Joe Biden, but Biden himself, he's just so ridiculous and old that it's hard to take him seriously. But, a lot of people on the left now, Elizabeth Warren, Julian Castro, Beto, Bernie, these people all subscribe to this belief that, like, cancel culture is, like, legitimate consequences for terrible behavior. Terrible behavior. So, I'm just reading some of the comments. It seems like people agree. That's good, too. So, let's talk about this situation. This guy at Barstool Sports named John Feidelberg. And they had him on the Minahan podcast the other day. This is, where is he at? Let's see. Where is this fat fuck? Yeah, there he is right there. So, Feidelberg, I guess, is one of Dave Portnoy's lackeys. I have always respected what Dave Portnoy has done at Barstool Sports. How can you not, right? He's built up a media empire. He's a multimillionaire, right? They create good content from time to time. It's definitely lost its way. However, he himself is freaking funny. I don't give a shit. Every time he talks, I laugh. He's a great entertainer. And he built it all by himself, right? He's like literally handing out printed out newspapers on the subway in 2004, right? For free. Getting his own advertisers, hustling, and as a self-made man myself, I respect that. So, but the problem is his employees have not had to deal with that struggle. They've been living in this bubble of Barstool Sports where it's like, you've never had a real job. Like, this guy's probably worked for him, 10 years or something like that. He gets to sit on a laptop and shit around and write about Rihanna all day. That's been his life. That's the only job he's ever known. And so he's on a podcast with KFC, Kevin Clancy. It's a really popular podcast. It's been around a while. It's a Barstool owned podcast. And this is what he said. Listen to this conversation that they had on Halloween. Hopefully. Hold on one sec. Watch, it won't play. Fucking Christ. Let me try this one. Not working either. All right, hold on. Time out with the full computer. Let me reload this. The fuck is this? All right. One moment, please. What are people saying? Good morning, guys. What should we call this show? Uncle Coffee with Uncle Turtle Boy? Not bad. See it. All right, here we go.
It's another edition of Casey.
21
people,
minute mark.
Roseanne's been tweeting really racist
on social media. There is this sense sometimes of the way of me making change is to be
Obama.
As judgmental as possible about other people. And that's enough. Like, if I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or used the wrong verb, or then I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself because, man, you see how woke I was? I called you out.
I mean, he's funny, guys. You got to give it to Obama. He gets it.
I'm going to get on TV, watch my show, watch Grownish. That's not activism.
I love the fact that this has to put the conservatives in like a pretzel, where it's like, we hate Obama, but he's saying exactly what they believe.
That doesn't put me in a pretzel personally. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit when somebody's right that they're right. Like he's couldn't possibly be more right about this. I wish more people on the left were as vocal as Obama was, but I don't know if you guys noticed this. Like they've kind of rejected him after a while. Like they've turned on him for not being woke enough, right? But it's weird because he's still like a god to them. So they're in a weird position where it's like, wait, Obama said this? Like if Trump had said the exact same thing that Obama just said, he would be crucified, right? But Obama says it, and it's like, oh yeah, well, now we agree with it, even though we're actively doing the opposit. So
Which is, I think, why this is such a great clip, because it's like, even a guy who those woke people probably think of as like their savior,
right,
as like the gold standard, are like, wait, what? I saw a couple tweets being like, it is so upsetting to see Barack, I love when they call him Barack, I'm like, he's Obama.
Yeah.
To see Barack, like, speaking down on social justice and activism. And it's like,
well,
did you listen to what he said? Like, he's down for
literally
real social justice and activism, just not your dumb fucking version of it that includes throwing stones at people on the internet.
But also that, like, first of all, I don't agree with cancel culture. I do not think it's a thing.
Okay, so this is Feidelberg. I do not agree with cancel culture. I don't think it's a thing. Go on.
But
what does that mean? It is.
I mean, people try and get mad. People get mad at you. So what?
But people get canceled.
But like,
people get mad at you. So what? Like that's what he thinks the world is. Go ahead.
People
for
lose their
like
jobs,
real reasons,
right? But I think that
like for like raping people, like
okay. So the only people, according to him, in his infinite wisdom here, a guy who has never really had a real job, works at Barstool and writes blogs in his underpants. It only happens to people who rape. That's it. The only people who get canceled in our culture are people who rape other people. Now, I've started to put together, I'd like to hear from you guys, who are some people who have been canceled? Like some examples. I've come up with a short list here, right, that I've kind of started to put together, right? Dean Ronald Sullivan is the guy, he's a Harvard professor. He's representing Harvard. Harvey Weinstein, he was fired at Harvard University, right, as being a dean because of that. How about Brett Kavanaugh? They literally went through Brett Kavanaugh's high school freaking yearbook. They made him explain what boofing was, what Devil's Triangle was. Like literally holding your alleged behavior and things that you said as a 17-year-old to prevent you from becoming a Supreme Court justice at the age of 55. If that's not cancel culture, I don't know what is. It's like the definition of it. Steven Crowder has been completely demonetized, right, on YouTube. Why? Because he called a guy who calls Carlos Maza from Vox, refers to himself as a queer Latinx or a queer Latino, and then every time Crowder refers to him, he's like, "Okay, Mr. Queer Latino over at Vox." It's like literally. So he was not canceled because he still exists, right? But they tried their best. Like there was an organized movement. He was just too powerful. Kyle Kashuv is a former Parkland student and like the lone conservative blue check mark that came out of that massacre. And he got into Harvard. He was the valedictorian. And then they found some things he said when he was 15, right? In which he used the N-word. He got kicked out of Harvard for that. They rescinded it. Megyn Kelly literally asked a question about blackface. She didn't say she wore blackface. She just asked a question about it. She was canceled, right? Brett Weinstein is a professor at Evergreen State. If you guys seen the Evergreen State protests, go watch those videos. They're wild, right? He wrote an email in which he suggested that a day in which they wanted to have a day in which no white students were allowed on campus, only students of color. And he wrote an email suggesting that this might be not a good thing. And students just took over the campus, right? Demanded he be fired, and he was, right? Shane Gillis, recently hired, to be on Saturday Night Live. Canceled. Why? Because they found an old podcaster with his and he said some racist shit about Asian people. And guess what? Andrew Yang, the only Asian running for president, didn't give a shit. Right? Roseanne. Freaking Roseanne. Had like the highest rated show on television. She said something that was definitely racist about Valerie Jarrett. Right? Canceled. It's freaking Roseanne. What do you think? Roseanne says crazy shit. That's why you have good ratings. Right? Canceled. Even Justin Trudeau and Ralph Northam, and so these are some left, because the left gets canceled too. Let's not forget that. Justin Trudeau and Ralph Northam, they both were dug up pictures of themselves in blackface, right? Neither of them were canceled, but they tried. And the only reason they weren't canceled is because they're elected. If you're elected, then, ultimately the people decide, right? But if you're on television or something and like anything in which a corporation can be pressured into dropping you, then you're fucked, right? Or Carson King, the kid over at in Iowa that he had the beer sign that said Venmo me for Bush Light or something like that. It went viral. He ended up raising over $1 million when he partnered with Bush Light for a children's hospital. Until one dipshit over at the Des Moines Register decides he's going to go through his old tweets and humiliate him. And say he found out he was quoting a television show, Tosh.0, right? And he had said the N-word or something like that, literally quoting the show. Why are you even going back that far? But all you had to do, if you're the reporter and you found those tweets and you're doing a story on this kid, right, is just go up to him and say, hey, just to let you know, I found these tweets, might want to delete them. That's it. You don't have to freaking write about it. Instead, they wrote about it. And guess what? He lost his sponsorship with Bush Light. They pulled out. Right? And so this guy, Carson King, by the way, got this story up there. The reporter, Aaron Calvin, was fired because guess what? It turns out he had said some racist things in the past too, which was just the irony was too perfect. I don't think he should have been fired either. No one should be fired for old tweets ever. Right? And this bitch boy still hasn't learned his lesson. This is what he writes in there. Right? You got to read this story. It's in the Columbia Journal, something like that. There was never an attempt to cancel Carson King. In fact, his status as a folk hero has only grown. By the end of his fundraiser, he had brought in over $3 million. Yes, he brought in over $3 million because people reacted to cancel culture and rejected it. So many people reject cancel culture. It's just a small vocal minority that somehow have all this control. Like, because they go on Twitter and they have hashtags. They have control. Why? So he's like, there was never any attempt to cancel him. That's exactly what there was an attempt to do. There was no other reason to bring up those tweets that had nothing to do with him raising money for kids who are sick. He's not a neo-Nazi. And he brought in over $3 million. And the mere fact that he lost Anheuser-Busch is an example of him being canceled. The only reason he raised over $3 million is because people were so upset about it that they gave money to spite him. That's correct. That's what happened. Right? So he goes on to say, on September 28th, they established the Carson King Day, so therefore is not canceled. They're literally doing that in spite of you. Meanwhile, I lost my job. Work that I was good at and proud of. Good God, these people, there's nobody who is more self-satisfied and has built themselves up more into something than a mainstream media reporter. They really feel like they are this invaluable cog in a democracy because they go through old tweets. I was good at. What were you good at? Digging up old tweets? That's not good. The fact that you think that that's something that's good and that's reporting, right? It tells me everything I need to know about you. My family has deep roots in Iowa. I grew up reading the Register. The writer Jesse Singal gleefully pointed out on Twitter the irony of the fact that I had shared Osita Nwano's New Republic article on the fallacy of cancel culture before I was fired. Like literally that happened. Check out this. This is too ironic. He actually tweeted this out. Cancel culture con. He retweets it. So there you go. I mean, it's like, and then he gets canceled. He literally got canceled. And so, before I was fired, but I still don't believe in the boogeyman of cancel culture. I was not canceled. Gannett chose to fire me. No, you were canceled. Like, I don't know what you're not missing about that. The company, why did the company choose to fire you? Because a mob went through your old tweets and found racist shit you wrote. Granted, I don't think you're a racist. Nobody actually thinks that. But you didn't think Carson King was a racist. And that's exactly my point. A large company these days can be shamed into getting rid of anyone they want. Right? If enough people go after them, that is exactly what will happen. Right? So this dipshit writes that. And honestly, here's a controversial one not everyone's going to agree with that I think was canceled. Colin Kaepernick, right? Eventually the right has to come to terms with the fact that Colin Kaepernick was canceled. Like, he was a perfect example of right-wing cancel culture. I mean, how is he not? Right? Colin Kaepernick is not a good quarterback, right? He is not one of the top 20 quarterbacks in the NFL. He was not when he started protesting, right? However, he is one of the top 90 quarterbacks, meaning he could be a backup on someone's team. I could think of some quarterbacks he's certainly better than anybody on the Jets right now, right? He could be Sam Darnold's backup and come in when Sam Darnold throws 5 picks or whatever. He's probably just as good as Marcus Mariota. Like, there's plenty of people that Colin Kaepernick is probably just as good at. Like, he can be a quarterback for your 3-13 football team. He ain't gonna win shit, but he could be in the NFL, right? And why isn't he? Well, he knelt for the flag, right? And so why is that disqualifying, right? Well, because the NFL has probably the most conservative fan base that there is. And people turned on the NFL as a result of that. They literally stopped buying tickets. They stopped buying merchandise. There was a loud outcry with that, right? And eventually the NFL is a corporation, right? They are in the business of making money. And the fact is, a group of people, a mob, a right-wing mob, decided that Colin Kaepernick had to be canceled for doing this. I mean, that's a fact. Eventually, the right has to come to terms with that. Colin Kaepernick is, I hate to say it, he's caught up in the cancel culture too. Even though he ironically probably supports it, he is. So, yeah. Brett's saying that Cap isn't as bad as Tebow. Tim was actually a decent quarterback. Are you saying that Cap is better than Tebow? I hope you're saying that. Tebow fucking sucked. Give me a break. Yeah. So anyway, believe me, I'm not a Colin Kaepernick supporter. I think he's a freaking moron. He has no idea why he's protesting. I've been pretty vocal about this all along. But the fact of the matter was, guys, he was canceled. And that's what we're getting at here. And this doofus from Barstool Sports is saying cancel culture isn't real. He goes on.
If you say, like, fuck, or, like you don't lose your job.
If you say fuck, you don't lose your job. Yeah, that's why people are losing their jobs. Because they say fuck.
Right, but, well, I mean, that's where you get back to, like, the SNL thing and certain, I guess you're right. Off the top of my head, I can't think of someone who, like...
Has there been someone who was canceled who you're like, I can't believe that happened?
Yes! Yeah, okay, so here we go. Has there been somebody who's been canceled where you're like, I can't believe that happened? Why, yes, it's funny you bring that up. I can think of several examples close to you, right? For instance, how about Kirk Minahan? Kirk Minahan had literally the top-rated show on WEI. Top-rated show in New England. He took WEI from nothing. Like, they were getting killed, and everybody was listening to 98.5 as of about 10 years ago. It became the hot station. Toucher and Rich was the biggest morning show. It's got a better signal, right? WEI turned into the old man station. And then Minahan comes on. And single-handedly, next thing you know, they're at the top of the ratings book. So why isn't he there anymore? Simple. One guy named Bob Murchison from Sherborne with a Gmail account decided he was going to relentlessly harass advertisers with misrepresentations of things Kirk had said on the show, just in bad faith, because he wanted to silence Minahan. And he was going to tell all these advertisers to probably never listen to the show in their life what an awful things he was saying, that, he's picking on trans kids and all this shit, just making shit up. And eventually a lot of them quit. And Murchison didn't stop. And WEI, instead of standing up to him, WEI is just, and Entercom is just another corporation that gave into him. One freaking guy. Granted, he did get some help there from Shirley Lee Young. but it was really just one freaking guy that did the whole thing. So there's one example. Kirk Minahan was canceled. That's why he literally works for your company right now, because he was canceled by the previous company. Now let's talk about your company and cancel culture. I believe Barstool Sports had a show on ESPN. I think it was Big Cat and PFT, if I recall. Whatever happened to that? They had one freaking episode on ESPN. And then what happened? Oh, right. The blue check marks, led by Sam Ponder, decided that they were going to misrepresent what Barstool Sports was. Barstool Sports is pretty harmless. Pretty harmless. They don't really do that many things that are controversial. They literally have to dig up old Portnoy tweets from 2011, in which he said something controversial that really shouldn't represent him anymore, in order to prove that they should not be allowed on ESPN. And it worked. It absolutely worked. And then talk about, you're looking at right now, I'm like patient zero of cancel culture. I invented cancel culture. Let's not forget what I used to do for a living, guys. I used to be a teacher. Aaron Calvin says he was good at his job. I was better at it. Right? I did nothing wrong. I came to school every day. I didn't miss school for like 6 years straight. Right? I loved it. I was enthusiastic about it. Then what happened? I started a blog. And the opinions stated in the blog, I wrote a blog that first got me in trouble when I created AdrianFromWorcester.com that said that Jonathan Martin, the guard from the Miami Dolphins who says he was bullied by Richie Incognito, was being a baby. That 300-pound men cannot be victims of bullying, and that we're teaching kids the wrong message that they should be victims all the time, view themselves as victims instead of standing up to the bullies. That's what I wrote about. I got suspended 5 days for that, and I had to shut down the blog, AdrianFromWorcester.com. And I started this new blog, TurtleBoySports.com. It does the same thing, right? Except it's anonymous. That's like literally the idea that you have to be anonymous proves that how real cancel culture is. If you want to say your opinions on things, right, without consequences, then you have to be anonymous. So this idea that cancel culture is real is just a flat out lie. I mean, the only people who could think that are A, people who have never been canceled, or B, people who are on the right team. If you think cancel culture isn't a real thing, it's because you subscribe to the worldview that is not in danger of being canceled, right? Like AOC and her ilk are not in danger of being canceled, right? They can say the most hateful things they want about right-wingers or whatever. They're not going to lose their job because they're hating on the right people. It's pretty simple. But I invented cancel culture. I mean, think what I've been through, right? Lost my job as a teacher, right? Because of TurtleBoySports.com, essentially, right? I resigned. I wasn't fired, just to be clear about that. But it was messy. I'll go back and read the book if you haven't read already, right? After that, I start TurtleBoySports.com. I turn it into a profitable business. What happens? Mobs start harassing my advertisers relentlessly, right? People that have never gone to these businesses until they say, we can't just deal with this anymore. We can't do it. Then they start maliciously reporting us to Google AdSense until TurtleBoySports.com gets blacklisted by Google AdSense. Then they start reporting us to Facebook until guess what happens to our page with 112,000 people? It gets taken down. We've had 40-something pages taken down since then. How many pages has Barstool Sports had taken down? Zero. So of course they don't know anything about. Of course he doesn't know anything about this, right? It's patently absurd. I'm blacklisted from Twitter. I'd love to go on Twitter and rebut him, but I'm banned from there because I've been canceled. Okay? I invented cancel culture. This idea that it's not real is freaking stupid. Stupid. So, there was another clip here. He comes on the, let me see. Let's see. He came on the Minahan podcast the other day. Oh, wrong one. And had some interesting things to say. Let me see if I have it on my phone. Actually, it might be easier. Hold on, I'll pull it up for you guys. Minahan. So they have him on the show, and they're going to kind of call him out on this, because obviously Kirk knows a thing or two about cancel culture.
For Christ's sake, you're on. You don't sound like you're panicking that much.
Okay.
You sent me a fucking text. You sent me a text 4 minutes. You sent me a text 4 minutes ago. Well,
How are you?
Oh my goodness, I've been panicking. Wondering if I missed the 7:50 or whatever.
No, we said 8:30.
I know, but then I didn't have any emails about phone numbers. I didn't know you were.
Relax. Relax. We're on the podcast. Relax, for Christ's sake. You're on. You don't sound like you're panicking that much. You sent me a fucking text. You sent me a text 4 minutes ago.
I sent Big Steve an email at 8:10 or 8:15.
Is that true, Steve? I don't know. I'm gonna check my. Where are you, by the way? Are you traveling? Are you underground? What's going on here?
I'm in fucking bed, man. Where do you think I am at 8:30?
Yeah, that's all I need to hear right there. I'm in bed, man. Where do you think I am at 8:30? I mean, that says it all right there, right? The fact that you're in freaking bed at 8:30 and you write blogs for Barstool Sports for a living. You don't know anything about anything. You've never had a real job. If you did, you'd understand this, right? And I think that's a big difference between Turtle Boy and the Barstool crowd. Well, we attract a slightly older crowd, people that are more understand life a little bit better, right? Who know the world a little bit better. I mean, these are college bros who know fucking shit about anything, right? That's who that's appealing to. Like, oh, bro, just fucking woke up at 8:30. Oh man, I had too many shots last night. Better order some pizza. I mean, that's the crowd that they want. That's fine. I like a more sophisticated crowd personally, and I like that's why the Minahan show is unpopular with the stoolies, because it's for grown-ups. Right? It's for grown-ups. I think 5% of our readers are between the ages of 18 and 24, right? The biggest blocks that we have are 25 to 44. That's the crowd we appeal to. Working class people who actually have jobs and understand how the real world works, right? So those are my thoughts on cancel culture. It's absolutely real. Anyone who says it isn't is a freaking liar. And if you guys have any questions or anything, I'll take questions for a moment and then got to get back to work. Barstool's like the real world Beavis and Butthead, yeah. Hi, Uncle. I'm needing the name of the garage door company you endorse. I've got a job for them. Garage Doors Plus in Quincy. Garage Doors Plus in Quincy. Did you wake and bake yet? No, I don't smoke pot during the day, man. If I smoke pot during the day, I haven't smoked pot during the day since like college. Like I'm a zombie for the whole day. I'm no good with pot in me. Like I cannot function if I'm high. I'm not one of those. I know a lot of people are, right? They like to smoke pot and then they do shit, relaxes them. I'm not. I'm the exact opposite. Like I'll just be like, I'll veg out. I'm slow. I have to be fast. This episode is brought to you by. Oh yes, what was he asking me? Did he ask me the roofing company, the garage door company? All right. CBD is working great. I'm a big fan. I'm going to put it in the store today, hopefully. So anyway, if you guys don't have any questions, I'm just going to call it a day there, get the day started. But thank you guys for coming on and joining us in the first. We need a name for this, so think of a name. Help me out with a name. If you come up with a good name, message it to me. All right? Peace, Turtle Riders.